It is my favourite season. It's unbelievably part 8. I checked before. We've gone some. Last up, we did 40 minutes on Liverpool 3, Man City 2, and Matters arising. We're going to try and limit ourselves a little bit more. We're going to do 2 more parts, and in this one, we're going to start, whether we like it or not, with the Gerrard slip. We're with Liverpool 0, Chelsea 2. We are doing 2013-14. It is the favourite season of these 3 esteemed gentlemen around me. I've got Matt Fitzgerald, I've got Neil Atkinson, and I've got Steve Graves. I'm John Gibbons. Did I say that? Doesn't really matter. We're in the Red Lion, and we're going to talk about Chelsea at home. It was... Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was a shit day, whichever sort of way you look at it. It didn't feel at the time to me like it was necessarily the final nail in the coffin, but we'd had this incredibly exciting winning run, and that was really... It was like everyone had let all the air out of all the balloons.
Yeah, I think the Norwich win felt, now in hindsight, the other side of it, being able to look back, it feels like you could see... You know, Norwich were 16th, 17th, 18th at the time. I'm not quite sure where they finally finished, but, you know, they were a poor side, and Liverpool had been really hard.
Yeah.
It had been really hard. This Chelsea thing, you know, there's so many bits of it that just bear some close examination. One was that Chelsea would, first and foremost, Chelsea should have won the league. This is, for me, the grand annoyance of the whole year is that was Chelsea's league to lose.
When we talk about anyone slipping up, it's Chelsea.
Chelsea slip up, yeah. It genuinely is Chelsea. It was Chelsea's league to lose, and it was Chelsea's league to lose from some distance out, and Chelsea managed to lose it. The one thing that they get that saves a degree of dignity is this result on this day. The other part of this is, why it is so grandly frustrating, is that it was in the midst of them having a home and away European thing at the end of that season as well. And not only they win this game, but they don't make the fucking European Cup final. So he makes all these changes to win this game, or to rest people, makes himself a big martyr out of the whole thing, sleeps in his car, all the obvious Mourinho jokes that come, you know what I mean? It's all there. But then they then fail again. They then fucking fail again. And, you know, you can end up driving yourself a bit mad.
Was it a Barcelona one?
No, it's Atletico Madrid.
Oh, was it?
It's Atletico Madrid, he's got home and away. So it's horrible games against Simeone's Atletico Madrid. That European Cup final, that is going to become Real Madrid versus Atletico Madrid.
Yeah, the Atletico should win, really.
Yeah, Atletico could be the best team in Europe at the time. So it's understandable why he does what he does. But my point is more, at the time and even now, because Liverpool became the protagonists of that season, everything's seen through what Liverpool do or don't do. And in loads of ways, that still winds Man City up, by the way, that Liverpool were the protagonists of that season, but that's the way in which it goes. Whereas the truth of it is, 1, Chelsea should win the league, and 2, Chelsea make the changes for this game by virtue of because they want to win the European Cup under Jose Mourinho, and they don't manage to do that either. So let's just remember that first and foremost. Then every bit of it is with the intention of taking air out of the balloon, and that's absolutely fine. For me, when I have watched this game back, albeit not in the last sort of 24 months, I think I might have done it during lockdown. I have watched this game back, and one of the things to take away from it is one of the reasons why it goes badly wrong is because Liverpool are trying to decide, they get to about 25 minutes, and Liverpool decide to try and play like a grown-up football team.
Yeah.
So they're trying to be patient. They're trying to accept this is the reality today, and it's going to be settled by 1 goal at some point. If you even look back at the slip, one of the things that's happening is Liverpool are playing for half-time. They're playing really safe. They're passing backwards. So, loads of received wisdom about this game that Liverpool couldn't handle it, that Chelsea got into their heads. That becomes true by virtue of the period from 45 to 90. And I think it is true in the period from 0 to 15. But from 15 to 45, Liverpool have pretty much gone, well, if this is the way it's going to be, then this is the way it's going to be. So all of this stuff, all the truisms, firstly, that it's Liverpool's grand failure, you know, that it's, you know, something that's profoundly about us, that it's something that was profoundly wrong with the makeup. All of this is nonsense. This is a story of this game is a Chelsea team gets an ultimately Pyrrhic victory in a season when it failed miserably, and Liverpool end up being the ones that everyone sort of batters over the head with this.
Yeah, that's my memory of that first half as well, Martin, in that part of me wanted Liverpool to be a bit more attacking, but then I understood. I remember people around me saying, listen, a point's fine and stuff like that. I don't know whether they were in their own heads a little bit, but there was a couple of times where I felt like we could have punched balls into the box. There was Suarez showing for it and things like that. And then we went sort of sideways and back instead. It felt like Mourinho often made this games about whoever made the mistake. You know, he's talked about it. In these games, it's about whoever makes the least mistakes will win. And that's what it turned into, really, which was a bit of a shame because we had got to that point and got to the dance by being much more than that.
Yeah, I mean, just firstly, I feel so much better now after Neil's thing about how it was really Chelsea's failure, because I've never thought of it like that.
And Arsenal's.
I think I sort of blotted this.
Can I just throw in Arsenal at the top of the league when we beat them?
Yeah. Back one, there's a gap.
Yeah,
I think I've kind of blotted a lot of this game out of my memory, and I haven't watched it back since. But my sort of memory from the day is that they're very much a team that you need to go 1-0 up against, and they're an awful team to try and come back from going 1-0 down, and they showed that day. But we just seemed kind of flat compared to the momentum we had at Anfield in the Man City game, some of the games prior to that. And I remember afterwards doing a post-match show or something, and to me it was all about Gerrard. It was like that. This can't happen. This can't be the reason. He's too great a player. He's been such a talisman for us. It cannot be the reason why we don't win the league. And ultimately, probably isn't. But it's become that for some people. And I just remember being kind of heartbroken at someone who had dug us out of the trenches so many times had that happen to him. And that was my memory of it. Was it just, that can't happen. Like almost like a kind of almost like the kind of magical thinking of a child was like, I refuse to believe it. There's something has to happen to make sure that isn't the thing that this is remembered for.
And he then spends the rest of the game trying to dig out the trench that he's built, and to sort of the detriment, if you like, of anything else. I'm not sure if he would have scored had we played sort of in a different way. They were tough to break down by that point. Like Martin says, they felt like the worst team to go 1-0 down to. But I remember Jamie Carragher talking about this game, and he says that, because he was retired in the summer before, and he said all season people were like, oh, I bet you wish you were still playing. And he was like, no, not really, they're doing great. Look at them. And I was knackered, they're doing brilliant. But he says, if there's one game I sort of wished I would have been there for, it was that one, just to say to Stevie, calm down. And he felt like there wasn't really anyone in the squad who had enough gravitas to sort of do that with him. But that's when he needed someone to just relax him a bit.
Yeah, and someone in mind of was Jordan Henderson. I'm retrospectively looking at Jordan Henderson 2019 and thinking, but I think he had some of that, and I think even then, and we'd have played. It wasn't even just the qualitative lack of Henderson, which we all felt the minute he makes the challenge against City, this is tricky. There was just something about what he was bringing at the time. He was playing on the edge of the box loads with Suarez and little intricate things, and we lost a lot of that. Albeit, Joe Allen, I think, plays really well in the game. He plays really well in the two games. Nearly scores in this one. Probably comes as close as anyone to actually scoring for Liverpool with a really, really good strike. Liverpool, they start the game with really only Suarez and Sterling as your likely goal scorers. Albeit Coutinho's got us a big goal within the last home game. Coutinho's goal record at this point, again, you think of 2018 Coutinho and you're thinking of it's a different proposition. Yeah. This footballer is not someone who delivers loads and loads of goals. So they start the game without Daniel Sturridge. He comes on and he's nowhere near fit. And actually the second goal, it's academic really, but it comes from him losing possession because he's just not on it. He's not there, and then Liverpool, are all camped in their half. It's such a, retrospectively, it's this Mourinho masterclass thing. Obviously he picks a shadow team. It's Mark Schwarzer in goal. You just think, could something just not have fallen for us right? Almost, it's just the order of things. That the breakthrough we get against Crystal Palace the week after is just the exact one you need. It's just a free header and something goes for you. And Stephen, second half, he has the headed chance, and you think there's a world in which that goes in. There's a world in which it's just a better ball to him from Suarez. A lot of the time he's trying to force things second half, but God, you can understand it.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that one of the issues second half, Steve, is it isn't just that Steven's trying to force it, Suarez is
as well, yeah.
If you could sort of carry one a little bit, if you know what I mean. The point is the two of them are absolutely determined that they're going to sort this out. And they're determined to do it at a pathological level. And Suarez hasn't played well for a while at this point. That's not to say he's played badly, but he hasn't been the starring man for ages. He's clearly his race... Because he's so fit and he's so determined and he's such a warrior, you know, and that continues through the rest of his career. Even when he's still playing now, you watch him and he's like this unbelievable, almost like essence of determined footballism. But his race has been run, I think, a couple of weeks ago before this. So you've got that, and then you've got, as you say before, you've got Steven trying to force it, and the idea of someone being able to say to either of them, can we just take it down a couple of notches, lads?
Yeah.
And there's no one to, and they're not able to say it to each other. Is the key point.
Well, no, but also all this has been built on not doing that. You know, and you say, you know, in that period where Liverpool try and play like a sensible football team, and it all goes a bit wrong. And I think everyone in the ground, you'd go, well, what we need is Gerrard or Suarez to seize this and do something for us. And you know, they try and take that mantle, and it just doesn't quite happen. It's mad how we get Lucas, I wouldn't call it exactly a free header, but a really good chance to head it in straight after the Denver goal. And you forget that. We go straight to the other end, we get a corner, and it lands on his head. And just that one, you know? The one I think he heads one in against Plymouth 2 seconds later. And you go, could you not have had that one? That one there, you know, just move that to there. How different things would have been. How different things would have been if Denver just hadn't scored. You know, how many times you see players go through like that, and it's obviously a great chance, you know, be a high XG, but it's not nailed.
Sometimes they go past the post.
Sometimes it just he stumbles himself or something. Stephen nearly catches, and you know, I think even a couple of years ago he might have caught him. You know, in his career he might have been able to catch him, because Gerrard is on the run. If you watch his recovery from the slip, it's exemplary. Like he's on the run. No, but because he immediately realises, he sees the danger before players who are stationed behind him. He knows exactly what he's, you know, what is happening here. And look, do
you think if it was anyone else that slipped, that he would have played the game differently?
Yeah.
He himself would have played.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
He'd also, you know, been able to support them, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I mean, if anyone else that slipped, it wouldn't live in. I mean, this is the ultimate compliment to Gerrard. You know, if it was Joe Allen that slipped, no one would necessarily even remember it. It wasn't the defining moment in loads of ways. You know, there's plenty of games where Liverpool had dropped points. But
it sort of says something, you know, that the sort of worst thing that people can sort of sing about him is that, you know, one time he lost his footing. He didn't miss an open goal. He didn't do anything bad with
it's
the ball.
It's crazy when there's like, you hear like, you know, West
but that's what opposing fans are, you know, like.
I feel like Chelsea fans can sing it, Man City fans can sing it. Everyone else, I don't, you know, maybe Everton and Man United fans if they really want to. But I mean, what's it got to do with fans of, you know, Blackburn Rovers or something if they come? You know, I mean, I think we put it to bed to a certain extent by winning the league. You know,
was this the game with the Aspas corner?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you know, the corner aside, it just reminds me that it was quite a thin squad.
Yeah, massively.
And at that point, you were calling on players that had barely got a game. And I remember thinking when like Aspas came on that I didn't know if it was desperate or not, but I just remember thinking, well, we haven't seen him in ages.
Yeah. Well, the Henderson red card comes from Victor Moses, and Victor Moses had done all right when he first came, but he was a player on loan from Chelsea, who Chelsea didn't sort of want, who had done all right at first, but then had been completely out of the team. And so you're bringing on these players like Moses and Aspas who, you know, either in Moses' case aren't deemed good enough for other teams who were, you know, probably expected to finish above Liverpool earlier in the season, or Aspas, who, listen, has gone on to have a really good career, but was at best a young hopeful. But like you say, apart from a few starts at the beginning,
pretty cold when he comes on.
Yeah, and that was the situation that the team were in. But then the managers looking at it and thinking, well, I've got players suspended, but also I'm playing players who aren't fit.
But that's, I mean, if I had a criticism of Brendan Rodgers, it's that Victor Moses is underused, I think, in the season, and I think Aspas, you're right, he's cold rather than totally crap. And I think, you know, he plays a few games at the start of the season and does okay. I think he gets his one goal is against Oldham in the cup. I think Luis Alberto being Liverpool probably had to just find ways to use them even for 20, 30 in games where where they were up. And maybe, again, it's a little bit of, the manager's experience. If he was 4 years more experienced, might have just found ways to have Aspas, at least Iago Aspas, who was a little bit less cold than that, and he has gone on to be, did go on to be, a pretty top goal scorer in La Liga. So I don't think it was absolutely useless. There may well be loads of issues around settling into the league and all that kind of thing, and we didn't have time to deal with that. We didn't have to make him amazing, but maybe we had to make him someone we could use because you need to use your footballers a little bit. So yeah, if I was going to have a small criticism of Brendan Rodgers this season, that would be one.
But the managers ran with the lads he's ran with, and the broad, literally it's a win and run all the way through. My thing on this is, I think where Liverpool end up unfortunate is with the Henderson red card, is that he's also done it with, Lucas wasn't cold, Joe Allen wasn't cold. These lads had actually been involved and had been involved on and off all the way through. But the thing was, what was happening in attack, where you've got, Gerrard with Henderson, Coutinho, and then the three in front of Sturridge, Suarez and Sterling, is that's just all fired really, really well. You lose Henderson, and I think one of the things that is counterintuitive now, ultimately I think Henderson, the injuries he sustained 15-16 period, we've forgotten the fact that one of the things about Henderson, when Martin said before about energy, everyone knows Henderson's got energy, but he had, I think, genuine pace. He had genuine pace. So he had energy and this pace off the mark. When Steve's saying about clever passes around the edge of the box with Suarez, one of the reasons why they were quite clever passes and why he was arriving there was he was genuinely quick, Henderson, in the middle of the park, in a way that now, people talk about hard-running number 8 who crashed the box. Well, that was Henderson. And he stops being that player a little bit by the time Klopp comes in. When he scores the stunner against Chelsea in 16-17, for instance, it feels like Henderson's first goal in a while. And it also feels like now the way Henderson's goals will have to be. They'll have to be 25-yarders. Whereas he was able to genuinely impact, the Arsenal game, to go right the way back, as Steve mentioned them before. Part of what happens is Henderson and Coutinho just run all over Arsenal. But when I say run all over, it's not just because of strength. They're genuinely both really fast. And I think that's lost out of the middle of Liverpool's midfield. So Henderson goes out, and it isn't... I think that now, in retrospect, we feel about the idea of replacing Henderson with Lucas or with Joe Allen shouldn't feel like it's that much of a downgrade, because we sort of see Henderson as a more conservative player. Whereas the truth of it is, you're basically losing an attacking midfielder and replacing him with Henderson or with Lucas or Joe Allen.
You've also lost Sturridge. Yeah. Then you are just a lot less threatening. You look at that team on paper and you go, there's only really Suarez who you'd bank on, and obviously Sterling's had a great run, but you just go, and then Suarez isn't in form, so you really are looking and going, well, how are Liverpool going to hurt them? And obviously the system changes slightly.
The thing about Henderson as well is that he's the one player that wouldn't try and force it, because he never tried to force it in his entire career. I mean, I've seen him pass in the 6-yard box when he should score. I mean, so I think he would have took the pressure off a little bit, and he would have allowed other people to get into position, because he wasn't the type of player to take the game by the scruff of its neck in that respect. But he would make other players around him better by being a little bit more patient, a little bit more considered. And I think missing that, I mean, obviously didn't help. But just this sense of my sort of memory of the game was we were sort of trying to do individual things, whereas Chelsea was sort of defending as a team.
There's something in that period, and it feels almost like, genuinely, not least because he's been so brilliant for so long, Gerrard, in this run, but at the moment when Henderson gets sent off, now looking back, not because of the slip, even allow for the slip, I'll do it in a second, but let's say Gerrard gets sent off in the same way, I think Liverpool would be better off, not because of anything about Gerrard or Henderson per se, but that there was a clearer replacement for Gerrard in the form of Lucas that could just have come in and gone, I'll do what you need. Joe Allen was not able to match where Henderson was at that point in time in this season. He was everyone's running machine at this point, Henderson, including Stevens. And you end up even allow for in this game, say the alternative universe I've just described, and Gerrard gets sent off against Manchester City. Let's just say, hypothetically, Lucas slips and Liverpool go 1-0 down. I think Liverpool play better football, and not even off the basis of forcing it or not forcing it. I think that at that point they just did not have a number 2 to Henderson in the squad. There was no one who could just come in, whereas both Joe Allen or Lucas could have done not a passable Gerrard impression, because so much of what Gerrard was doing was moving the ball 50 yards brilliantly, but they could have just come in and played as a holding midfielder. Because that's what Stephen was doing. Stephen's primary job was to be a holding midfielder. And what happens in the end is that there's just no one who can come in and be what Henderson's been.
Is that lack of bodies? Because I mean, I'd argue Raheem Sterling might be able to, because he sort of does against Swansea.
Yeah.
But then he can't be playing there. He can't be being Raheem Sterling over here, because it's the lack of bodies again, and the Sturridge injury is at least as important as the Henderson suspension. Yep. And Liverpool go in without two of their main guys, and it's hard when you're doing that against Chelsea, even a depleted Chelsea side, and the all the moments in the first half. I think you sort of watch it in a post VAR world, and probably they'd have had a penalty when Salah hits a shot that Flanagan handles. Probably we might have had one. There's an early one when they have there's a handball. I think Sterling goes past someone and sort of goes down to the floor and handles it. I think it's Callas.
I think it is Callas.
Yeah, it's all our yesterdays with these names and Salah. Yeah, it's such an opportunity, I suppose. I think you feel like it was all there for us, and maybe Liverpool would have been able to just address it a bit more if Chelsea had picked their first team and just they possibly did get into a bit of the mind game stuff, and they possibly did fall a little bit for the Mourinho stuff. He does it for a reason. It's not like he's not an idiot, and yeah, it was just so.
Well, the thing about it all is that I think the other part of this is that you get to half time and they're absolutely set in terms of what they're going to do. So it isn't just that now Stephen and Luis are trying to force the issue. It's also that it's just completely made Chelsea's mind up, but also you end up in a situation where, without being sort of crass about it, the players are fucking enjoying it. With the Chelsea players at this point, this is tons of fun. You're pissing all these people off. You're playing for Chelsea. It's a big game. The world's watching because of all the momentum of this. You're all in now on the plan.
Forget it can be fun as a football team to dig in like that.
Yeah,
play like that. I think some people go, footballers don't want to play like this, and they maybe don't want to play like it for 3 seasons, and that's possibly the reason why Mourinho, it kind of burns out. I mean, people used to say it about Ulier's team because it was such a culture shock coming from sort of the Roy Evans era, the joint era, and then into Ulier, that players didn't enjoy it, and some of them really do. And you can, and we mentioned Jamie Carragher will probably be one of them. It can be really, a fun challenge, but also quite a simple challenge. So you've got players who, as long as they're physically up to it. And in some ways, like it's the inverse of what Liverpool did, which was you just go for it, and then if you're physically up to it, so you can be Ali Sissoko and you can be John Flanagan and you can be a part of this football team. And in the same way as with Chelsea's, you've got a game plan, you know what it is, and yeah, I mean the timing of the goal is there a possible worse time it could have happened really, other than maybe on 89? It's just so hard to recover from.
I think when you just said then it was sad. I mean, that's just my overriding memory of this game. It's just sad when you have your kind of spiritual leader, the one that carries the flag into battle.
Yeah.
When you see him get kind of wounded early on, I mean that's got to have an effect on him, but also everyone else, and also the crowd. I just remember the crowd being kind of anxious. Because you've seen this superhero become sort of mortal in the most inopportune time possible, and it shouldn't have happened to him. He should never have had that in his career, and it looked in that game in particular. I mean, we'll talk about Palace soon, where I thought anything was possible, but in this game in particular, it just looked like you're trying to win a battle without your general, or your general's, wounded somewhere, and it just had that feeling about it. It seemed that something cruel and sad was happening.
It's often forgotten, and that's my kind way of saying I've forgotten, that there's a game between Man City and Chelsea, which is the Norwich one, and I was meant to start with it. I even said downstairs I was going to start with it, and then I sat down and talked about Chelsea and the Gerrard one, so I hadn't actually forgotten. But I think if you were to ask most football fans who'd lived through that. Liverpool beat Man City 3-2. Steven Gerrard says it does not slip, and then next time he's on the pitch.
And the fact is, if I was not a Liverpool fan, there's such dark comedy in that.
Yeah, no, of course there is.
But it's not banter. There is a dark element of comedy there.
Like, wow. It's pathetic, isn't it?
that he said that.
It's like,
go on.
But there is a Norwich game between them that we do need to talk about, because I think it is worth mentioning, because I think everyone thinks there's this big drama of City and there's this big emotional thing, and then they just crash, whereas actually they go to Norwich and they're really good. They're 2-0 up in 10 minutes. Raheem Sterling scores a brilliant goal, and I think it's like Easter Sunday at midday or something like that.
Isn't there a game before that where Fabio Borini scores a goal that helps us out? Because I remember...
So the Chelsea lose. So Sunderland are mad in this run. They play City and Chelsea and are brilliant. Connor Wickham it's like... Connor Wickham was like this, like, for people who don't know, was a much hyped youngster. He was, I can't remember where he was, but everyone was raving about him. And then Sunderland get him, which felt a bit mad, but I think he's like, well, I'll play more at Sunderland. And then it never quite happens for him. But for a week, he really wants Liverpool to win the league.
My overriding memory of that Norwich game is just the away end singing that Borini song. The whole game, fantastical.
Yeah,
that was just.
So that must have been the Wednesday. I watched that in Hannah's, which is now Metrocola, a worse pub. But not a joke, Rob. I think that was the Wednesday night in between. Yeah. Because Chelsea should have won the league, but they couldn't win at Sunderland.
There's that energy. I was like, there's a mate of, I like to think he at least class himself at least as a close acquaintance or friend of mine, of Phil's, though, who goes to the match with Phil, called John Cook. And Phil always told the story that John Cook would maintain to everyone that he knew what it would feel like when Liverpool won the league, because it happened at Norwich away. Like he went to Norwich away on Easter Sunday at 12 noon and he watched Liverpool win the league. As far as he was concerned, that was, that's it. I've seen it.
Yeah.
It's happened. So I'll know the way it is when it comes round. And obviously, the moment of it is however many years thereafter when it actually happens. But I know exactly what that means. Like you in football, because the way you feel about football, the way you can feel in a moment is separate to maybe at times what becomes the lived reality. And I think it's just a spot on thing to say. The couple of things about the Norwich game. One is that Liverpool are knackered last 30. Yeah. And I think it's worth remembering they were genuinely on the knees last 30. The other thing is Sterling's incredible. All game he's incredible. I mean, it's not just he scores the rocket. He is unbelievable how good he is in this match. He runs the entire football match from start to finish. He was the absolute business, and it does, precede what's about to happen with Chelsea, but he just looks the part. The other thing about it, though, is Norwich scrap for their lives. We're 2-0 up in 10 minutes, like you say.
It's tight.
But it ends up being tight. And there's, again, to talk about where they're a bit flat when you get to the game against Chelsea. There's a little bit where, Christ, it might have even been different if it had just been Norwich City 0 Liverpool 4. And they'd have just been able to skate through the last half an hour. They are fighting for their lives to get that game over the line. They've been the better side, and Sterling's a big part of it. But, I think it's just... it's worth saying this is why Chelsea run out of punches. The part why someone beat them is that Chelsea run out of punches. City have got the most punches that remain of anyone from there. Everyone's just, it's become, you look at, and Steve was right before to call out Arsenal, and trust me, in a minute, John, I'm going to get stuck into fucking Everton. But there is a thing here where there's a top 5 which includes Everton.
Yeah.
And everyone, though, because you end up looking at the table that year, 5 teams, I think, get above 76 points. Certainly 5 teams get above 72. Everton get above 72 points, which sounds mad now to say it, but they do. And then from there, Liverpool, I think Arsenal end up on 79. The point about this is that there's 4 heavyweights who've been throwing punches for 10 months, and everyone is just drained. Is just drained by this process. But Liverpool throw more punches at Norwich. They get themselves over the line. They managed to put the points in the bag, and you feel like it's going to be absolutely, from that point, Liverpool just need to get 7 for the remaining 3 games. They just need 7 points, and you think they're going to be all right. But Norwich it was hard. If Liverpool had played Norwich in February, they'd have just beat 4-0. They just beat them 4-0. And in the end, they end up in this absolute ding-dong because Norwich are fighting relegation and they're killing themselves.
You come on to the getting 7. I remember spending the whole week, really, going through it in my head and trying to work out how 6 is so much worse than 7 ahead of the Chelsea game, because 6 is no good to you.
Yeah.
And 7, and you'd have to explain goal difference to a layman, to goal difference and all of that. And how is it that much different? Like if you two wins probably doesn't do it, and 2 wins and a draw just does it fine. And it's like what a mad situation. The maths are so inexorable, and yet so like you just feel like somehow there's a diddle here.
I remember so much maths.
Yeah, so now
Like sitting at work, looking at tables,
really
looking
simple
at
maths,
fixtures.
but also
I think I opened a spreadsheet at one point. It was pretty deep. On that Norwich game, I remember seeing my friend Steve Zapp, real name, who was the
Double
good
P.
name, double P Zapp, and he was the booking agent for Biffy Clyro, the editors, and some other bands. And he's one of those. He's a. Not only is he a glass half empty guy, but the glass is the wrong fucking glass. He's
getting a Guinness in a John Smith's glass. Yeah, I go, fuck it
It's
out.
the only time I've ever seen him happy, that Norwich game. That's what the other fella said, Cookie, as I'm going to call him. He was, I remember seeing that there, and he was like, this is great, isn't it? I was like, well, it must be.
Must be if you're smiling, yeah.
So, yeah.
Love it. Okay, so Chelsea happens, and what's interesting, Neil, is that Man City play twice before Liverpool play again. Now, one of them is immediately after.
Yeah.
They're away at Crystal Palace. They win that game.
shouldn't have.
You don't think?
No, I watched it with Amelia, and
I remember Yaya Toure being good.
Yaya Toure just did it for them, but Palace were more than good enough. They had chances, and you just like, it was a hard watch, because you could see they were so close time and time again. But one of them, that's why you win leagues, because you win the game.
I did remember wondering, would this have been a harder game if we'd have got something out of it? I mean, you can never know. That is a question that there was no known answer to. But I remember thinking, like,
He scored after about 9 minutes as well.
Would they have done that? Had we have done the business or done some sort of business? Because but you don't know. But then, so there's the Palace one, and then there's Everton, which is Sound City weekend, Bank Holiday weekend, and I can't remember when the game was. I remember being on stage.
5:30.
Saturday.
Yeah, so I played a lot that weekend at Sound City.
He was 7 times.
It was something crazy. Yeah, it's in the book.
Some brass band stuff.
Phil Collins live.
Honestly, but in Blue Coat Garden. But I remember being in the Blue Coat in that garden bit outside and saying to someone like, you're just going to have to keep telling me scores here. And Everton went 1-0 up. Neil, and you want to crucify them?
So we've got Paddy who's looking after this for us in Dark Blue. And it's one of the... It doesn't help all the stuff around it. Let's be clear about this. If Everton had beaten Manchester City that day, there's a good chance, and I'd have to go back and really check the maths, but they might have qualified for the Champions League, and that would have been literally a game changer for Everton. Seeing the stuff afterwards with all the... It's not the winning, it's the taking part that counts. It really, really genuinely sticks in my craw in a way that I can't get past. I think in the end, and that includes and he's now passed away. He passes away a couple of years later, and we know he was a slightly complex character who had his own issues. But let's be clear about this: one of the greatest managers in English football history is Howard Kendall, and seeing someone like Howard Kendall wear that sort of t-shirt, I find it really hard, genuinely, because. And not off the idea that we should all have each other's backs. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want to be clear about this. I'd be fine with, Liverpool. If Liverpool lost a match that, inconvenienced Everton, then I wouldn't. I'm not saying I would be one of those who was like, oh my God, what are the Reds doing? They should be doing X or Y. But to have this vibe around a game which crucially would have hugely helped Everton. That's the key point here. Beating City would have hugely helped Everton, and all that noise around it's always just really got my goat, and it always will. And I can't, in a number of ways, I sort of just can't get past it, because the goalkeeper is dreadful on the day from an Everton point of view. The vibe in the ground is weird, and I know it from people who were there, from Everton supporters who were there. There's this really weird energy on the pitch, which is, it feels like I'm watching the match. It feels as though Naismith, Barkley and Lukaku are utterly desperate for Everton to win the game, and a lot of other players seem a little bit nonplussed. And people listening to this might think that's just bitterness, and you're wrong. But watching the match, that's what I'm sort of viewing. I'm seeing, by the way, Naismith was brilliant that season. It's some season from Naismith. Every time I watched Everton, he was like a Dirk Kuyt. He was making Barkley and Lukaku better, and he's great this day, Naismith. And it was all the noise afterwards, and it may well be the noise afterwards is all as simple as we haven't won the game that we could have done with winning. So the way we comfort ourselves is going, well, it fucks the red shite up. And that's almost certainly the case. But the wider vibe just always felt a little bit like, and this is back to this idea of Liverpool being the total protagonists of this season, which I'll say again, I know for a fact pissed off Manchester City at board level. At ownership level, Manchester City were pissed off by the fact that Liverpool were deemed to be the protagonists of this season. That said, there's every chance Everton get a result against Manchester City if the world did not deem Liverpool to be the protagonists of this season. Because it becomes this sort of, like, on that day, that's the way in which it just felt like it went. And as I say, maybe I'm full of shit, or maybe I'm completely wrong. It's all happening while Sound City's going on. It was a brilliant Sound City weekend. Part of the point of why we talk about this as our favourite season is that we were all having the absolute time of our lives. The gigs were unbelievable. The city was absolutely buzzing and bouncing. And
John played 7 times.
These things
and despite that, it was great.
Like every bit of it, and and part of it again is that you're a certain age. Was genuinely. I can embrace that, and I'm made. I'm happy to sort of run with that through this, but everything just felt so vibrant, and that weekend felt so vibrant. But and part of why that weekend felt so vibrant was what was then going to go on and happen on Monday, which is that there was still this thing in the back of your mind, which is these pricks could just score 10 goals. So that's in there as well. Even then, when this is happening, there's still this thing of these pricks could just go and score 10 goals because they're capable of that. But it was such a horrible Saturday night for that period, watching that game.
On that Everton game, I remember on the Friday, I was up here, and I got a taxi back to the hotel, and the driver was an Everton fan, and I said, "What do you want to happen in this game against Man City?" And he said, "I want us to get beaten," and then he paused. Then he said heavily.
Which feels unnecessary.
And I thought,
It didn't matter at that point.
There's no goal difference angle for you here. Yeah. You just want to get beaten so heavily that it's beyond doubt. Yeah. And I often think it might have been better if that was an away game.
Yeah.
Because it must be a weird atmosphere to play in front of your home fans when they're not particularly cheering you on.
I suppose the analogue for us is '95 with Blackburn, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
at Anfield. I wasn't there, so I don't know. But I do get a sense that it was a weird atmosphere. And obviously West Ham do everyone a favour ultimately in that game, and Liverpool actually win. But yeah, it's those things don't come around very often, and I suppose you can't say how you would necessarily handle them. I think that it was a shame. It was a shame for Everton that they ultimately had their best season in decades and didn't realise it in a way, and didn't realise that maybe that it wasn't going to carry on this way. But as you say, Barkley was brilliant. Scores a fantastic goal. Lukaku and Naismith, are just excellent. And Everton, it should have been a real springboard for them this season, and it may well have been if they'd have got into the Champions League. And maybe they just wouldn't have quite made it. I think there's just not quite enough points there for them, and part of that is what happens at Anfield and other games. But yeah, you'd like to think that you wouldn't feel the same. Maybe you wouldn't want us to get. I'd never want Liverpool to get beaten heavily. No. I can't imagine.
It was the heavily that stuck with me.
Heavily. I think it was the goal difference thing, because I think it was still.
I don't think that's what he was thinking about.
I don't know. I think it was in people's. It was in everyone's heads that Liverpool could score 10. It wasn't.
Just no. So when he was saying that he hoped Everton got beaten heavily, I thought, why don't you just want you to get beaten?
Because City could have beat them heavily and totally, we'd have made it 15 or 20, whatever.
I think we're giving him too much credit.
I didn't give him a tip. I said, "There's your fare,"
but
without the heavy tip.
Yeah. But in amongst all this, though, it's really important to say, and again, this stuff does matter. It was a fucking great weekend. Like, it was a brilliant weekend. Yeah. The Friday, Saturday, Sunday were absolutely top draw. It was a terrific time to be out in the city. It was when
Was that the year Holstein played in the car park?
No, I don't think so. That was a year later.
It might have been.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure. I'm trying to think. Maybe
I
it was
think
the
it
year
might have been
before
a
or
year
later.
later.
Yeah, I think it was the year later, actually.
It was some point at the Sound City weekend in Leith when I developed the I think we can score 10 goals theory.
Yeah.
And I remember saying that to people as if I'd taken loads of edibles and I was slightly animated. And I hadn't taken a load of edibles. I started to kind of be a little bit like that scene in Escape to Victory when they've like built the tunnel at half time and they're going through it. And then someone says, hang on, we can win this.
Yeah.
And like Michael Caine's like, what did he say? We're trying to escape. And then again, I remember thinking, well, we just need to score 10 goals.
Yeah. In a way, it was a simple task.
And then
It was a clear task.
I remember writing a thing for the Wrap about, I had a whole policy about it, which was we should take the goals away in training to really starve the players of scoring goals. So that when it comes to Monday, they'll see a goal and they'll want to score even more. And in every single kickoff, there should be 10 players on the line. We should be that attacking.
I think it was the
It
Saturday
was crazy.
night.
It really happened.
The Saturday night with Sound City, with the prospect. Once Everton went 1-up, you just went, "What a night we could be."
Yeah,
having." I think it's that. It was as much
that's fair.
That real disappointment. We watched it together, Neil, in The Lady of Man, as was now Dale Street Social, I believe it's called. And that was the thing. I think you just went. Imagine if they just got something, and then we go out, and then we bounce into Monday. I think I was still. I don't think I still felt all was lost. I did think they could score.
Yeah, no, I don't think it was lost at all.
Yeah.
I think they didn't think it was lost, and that's the thing about Monday. When we get to Monday, is the truth of it is he gets the ball 3-0.
Yeah.
And it still remains in loads of ways like just this.
The greatest.
Yeah, it's in so many ways like because it becomes like in so many. I keep saying it, myth, tragedy, sort of that Greek element of hubris or flying too close to the sun or whatever you want. But why it's so incredible is 3-0. He gets the ball. He gets the fucking ball. He gets the ball. Like let's go. Let's see what we can do here.
And I think that's why, like, I don't know, I can't be too sad about that night. And I think people always expect you to be. And, like, not in a kind of funny way, but, like, Crystal Palace, I think it's, like, a big moment for them. Yeah. And I think Sky, it's a big moment for them. But, like, effectively, we could have won 4-0 that night and it wouldn't have made any difference. So I'm, like, really proud of them and not too sad about
that atmosphere at the ground. I mean, I remember you being there.
Yeah.
But everyone was so happy.
Yeah.
And you would think we wouldn't be. But I remember just people that you'd seen all around the country all season. Everyone was just hugging each other. There was such goodwill in that ground.
Yeah.
It was. I've never felt that before or since. It was and from a lot of people my age and older. It wasn't just like enthusiasm of youth. It was like a lot of fellas in their 50s. Oh, I'm mine, and like it's like we're going to do it, and I don't know how we're going to do it, but I think if we just score loads, we'll probably do it.
Well, my theory was there was a way that you could like go 8-7. Like if they could fucking put 8 Crystal Palace, then we kick off against Newcastle. And genuinely,
didn't have
to do it in one game. So it becomes, but you need to get more than 3. To be fair, so when Suarez gets the ball, he's right to get the ball. What you needed to do was make it plausible against Anfield that we kick off and we just launch at Newcastle, a pretty sad, depleted Newcastle, I hasten to add, and we go at them like men possessed. And if we win 7-0, then we're all checking the City score.
You knew City had a midweek game, and you went, well, I know that if we racked up 4 or 5. They could stretch themselves and get and easily match that. And so this wasn't. It was going to have to be at Sellers Park that we put in we put 7-8 on the board, really.
And also then put doubts into City's minds. It's not done.
Yeah.
We can't just walk over the line. We've got to go. You know what I mean?
And the most amazing thing is we are going to get onto it in a bit, but that's what they tried.
No, but let's get onto it now.
I think we're onto it. I think we got onto it.
What they tried, and they were onto it as well. They were all over it, and that's why. And you can, I will not get hung up over them. It's why my favourite season in loads and loads of ways is that they just went, let's do this.
It's one of the best games one of the happiest I've ever been at a game. And I remember, because of the thing that I'd written, this is going back years now, but for a bit I was trending on, I think, Liverpool, sort of like Twitter or something. And when they scored the 3rd goal and they got the ball out the net, I remember you coming up to me, John, and said, they're doing what you said they were going to do. And I was like, this is all down to me. And I felt a little and I was getting text messages from people that had read that thing going, I think it might be happening.
Yeah. Well, no one expected them to
And
actually
I
grab
was
the ball.
like, oh, because I've forgotten the figures around it. It was in the book, Maker's Dream, still available. But they had something like a shot every 2.5, 3 minutes.
Every 2.5 minutes they had a shot.
Yeah, it was insane, really. And the sort of the ending of that game, I'm not interested.
No.
Right, I'm not interested. I'm just, and you know, we only went in at half time 1-0.
Yeah.
But it seemed like
We
a
pounded
fucking boulder was coming down a mountain,
But then it
gathering mass.
When you get those two quickly after, not long after half time, it
I
almost
never felt like that in my
I
life.
felt
there's
alive.
something about the
I felt
nature
alive.
when you look at the goals. The
There's
nature of
things, there's things to stand on in Selhurst Park as well, which like it doesn't feel like there should be in a stadium. But I was on like something, not the chair, like concrete. There's more to stand on in Selhurst
All
Park.
of that
you think.
pre-match happiness and optimism,
Yeah.
suddenly in those few minutes, I think that's the happiest I've ever seen people. And I've been to the occasional wedding. I tried to avoid them, but it was the happiest I've collectively seen people, and it was a night game, and it was just. We found a way to do this. It looks like after the Gerrard thing, having to support Everton momentarily, it seemed like this was back in our control, and we're doing it. And Palace don't seem to really care. And God, they've gone 3 down now.
It's just so mad that they care. For God's sake. I mean, I think really, the deflection off Johnson that takes the long range shot in. Without that, I think they probably don't care, but it just gives them enough, doesn't it? It just gives them enough to think. And then Yannick Bolasie does things that ensure his Rob Gutman's lifelong affection. I think he'd sign him now. He's convinced he was the solution to something.
It's mad how bad he was at Everton.
I know. The nature of the goals, like the Joe Allen gets a free header. And then, the deflection for the second, and then the way that it sort of just breaks. The sorts of goals you score in 9-0s, like I've seen a couple of 9-0s.
Yeah.
And you go, they're the kinds of goals you actually score in big wins. They weren't from nowhere. They weren't sort of wild. They were very straightforward goals. You go, well, things are going our way today.
Yeah.
This team, the team we're playing against, looks very pliable. It looks like we can kind of do what we want, and then things just flip.
It was that weird thing where we had played 45 minutes and we'd only scored 1 goal. We're like, okay, well that's half the game gone, and we need to score 7 or 8. And then maybe we played for an hour and it was still only 1-0. And then we scored 2 in quick succession. I'm like, fucking hell, it's half an hour left.
Yeah.
This could be anything.
At the rate we're going, if this rate continues.
Yeah, and it was that feeling of sudden momentum.
The time in a game means nothing, does it? Adam Mealy will always say, if you score 1 every 10 minutes, that's 9.
Yeah.
And it's...
10 minutes is ages.
10 minutes is ages. You can score 3. You can score a hat trick in 3.5 minutes, or in 5 or whatever. It's one of the brilliant things about football, isn't it? That ultimately 90 minutes is a long time, but it can all hinge on a minute.
Because you think they've kind of given up by that point.
Yeah.
God, could they not have done the decent?
But again, it's a hard ground for the home team to give up in.
But it's just a complete, as you say, almost a fluke of a first goal.
Yeah.
Just sort of changes the momentum.
It does change the momentum, but I think the flip side of it is genuinely almost just sort of strip it back to the we're here. Why are we here? The reason why we're here is because he gets the ball. Yeah. He gets the ball, and he gets the ball in a way. And he also gets the ball, and it's not like his teammates are going, what's he doing getting the ball? Yeah. They're all like, you get that fucking ball and let's go. Ooh. And that to me is, it's what you want, I think, from whatever it takes. The idea that your football team is all in on whatever it takes. When we think about what your favourite season is, for me, I've got, it might change, it might shift, and maybe when I reflect, I might go somewhere else. I've always, I adored 21-22, but in loads of ways, it's this one or 1920, and because in 1920, Liverpool did a thing which I don't think people pay lip service to, but no one's ever actually done, which is they treat it like 38 cup finals. And they literally go and treat it like 38 cup finals, and they treat every game like a cup final. And I think loads of people in sport say that's what we do. Any sport and any level will say this is what we do. But Liverpool showed what happens when an elite football team literally does it. The reason why this one edges it is because you get to see what happens when an elite football team believes in the impossible. When it just believes completely in the unlikely. Not the impossible, actually, because I don't think it was impossible. I think, slightly better on the day in a couple of ways. It could have been possible, but they believe in the unlikely in a way that is simultaneously really naive and can allow people to lambast them. But in another way where the best energy is, I just don't think they give that much of a fuck.
Well, after the game, Brendan Rodgers asked about it. He was like, "Oh yeah, we probably shouldn't have done that. Probably shouldn't have grabbed the ball." And I was like, "I bet you weren't thinking that at the time. Like, you can be all like sensible manager now when the cameras are on you and stuff like that." And I felt like saying, "I bet at the time you were like fucking great."
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But he's probably got to pretend to be a grown up, even though there was none.
Yeah, and you've just got to go. Absolutely, like you've got to go the whole hog on all of it, which is that this is what the team was. And being the best version of yourself, I think, is, whether you win or lose, being the best version of yourself is one of the best things that you can be. Only one team can win the league every year. Only one team can win the league every year. I think this Liverpool team, in loads of ways, is the best version of this Liverpool team it could ever have been. And that it just falls short in the way in which it does across the Chelsea game and the Crystal Palace game in different ways. For me, the grand shame isn't that they drew 3-3. Sorry, isn't that they drew. It's I'd rather imagine they'd have drawn 7 each. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely took it to the max. Imagine it finished 7-7 because they were completely like that. This Liverpool team is the best version of itself, and that the best version of itself in the end doesn't quite get over the line is something which you just get to go, well, okay, only one team can get to win. That's the way it works. Literally, it's the way it works all the time, and that's, to me, you've got to applaud that.
I mean, the sort of other thing about that game is, people talk about as giving away a 3-goal lead. But really, the moment Palace score, in any other game, 3-1 is fine.
Yeah.
But because of the goal difference game we're playing, the moment they score, we're like...
They have another game midweek.
It's a huge compliment to City, really, as well, because I don't think any of us think they're going to slip up against West Ham and Aston Villa.
It's 2 home games, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think if it's us and you go, City have just drawn that game, now we have to win 2 home games. At that point, we go, well, fuck, oh my God. And, maybe that's down to Man City's. Maybe it's just down, they might be annoyed about not being the main characters, but not being the main characters kind of helps them a little bit.
Yeah,
massively.
There's just a sense that they're a bit like a Formula One team. They just go, well, we've done the numbers here. This is fine. We know how this is all going to work. So, Luis Suarez is crying at the end, and covering his face with his shirt because he just doesn't think Man City are going to let this drop now. And also another thing about Man City is we've seen them, and we beat them at Anfield, but they were brilliant. And you go, wow, well, I know how good they are, and if they do that to Aston Villa and West Ham, we've got no chance here. Andy Carroll notwithstanding.
Okay, we'll leave it there for part 8. There is one more part. We're going to talk about a crazy game against Newcastle, and then just round up on how we feel about the season, what happens in the summer, and I'm going from there.